Welcome back to Rev It Up Bowling. My name is Jason Robarge, and today we have a pattern breakdown for you. What we're going to be bowling on is the 2024 PBA Shark pattern. We'll be bowling on this for the next 3 weeks during our league, so I wanted to get this video out for those league bowlers to understand what this pattern does. A little bit about the pattern. 48 feet, very long pattern, about 29 mils of oil. As a comparison, if you guys remember Cheetah, which we just got off of, that was 35 feet with like 34 mils of volume. The oil on the Cheetah pattern is much more concentrated. You have all that volume in 35 feet instead of 48 feet like this one. It's a longer pattern, however, technically there's less volume per board. The pattern itself is a 2.78 to 1. There's a decent amount of ratio there. It is a little bit more of their easier pattern, but the biggest characteristic I want you guys to take from this pattern, if we were working on the sheet, is the amount of buff. So if you guys look at the sheet, you guys are gonna see that there is dark blue all the way to about 38 to 39 feet. Actually, I think it's like more like 37 feet. And then the rest of it is buff. When there is a lot of buff, right, it's a 48-foot pattern. It's going to play long regardless. However, when there's that amount of buff, really, it's not new volume getting laid down. Typically, when you see that much buff, it is going to play a little shorter than you expect. I always give people the option of using the rule of 31. It's not a rule, it's more of a guideline. Every bowling alley is different. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you were to use the rule of 31 on this 48-foot pattern, you're going to be talking about your break point being 17. Now, the pocket's at 17 and a half. Right? That means we're gonna have to throw it right into the pocket. However, that's why the rule of 31 is sometimes definitely a guideline. With this type of pattern, with this much buff, it's gonna definitely feel like it's gonna play shorter. So, you know, I'd say it's gonna play more like a 43 to 45 maybe foot pattern. You can get the ball a little bit farther right. With this particular lane, with what we have here, we have newer surfaces with very clean back end and a nice Kegel machine that does all the work. At this particular bowling alley, you're gonna see a lot more back end reaction and more recovery right because of this squeaky back end. For this particular pattern, I personally feel like there's two ways to tackle it. One, you can play a traditional long pattern. You're gonna stand a little bit farther left and you're gonna aim more at the 3-pin, keep your angles shut down a little tighter. But I also feel like, especially at this bowling alley, that you can get stuff that's a little bit more early rolling, you know, more surface, big ASIM solids possibly, and be able to play the mid lane and that hook stop motion play a little bit farther right. When you look at this particular pattern, it does have some ratio, but it's dead flat, ratio up, and then dead flat, right? You know, we still want our break point to be somewhere in that ratio. However, we can probably leak it a little bit farther right because of the amount of recovery. We're gonna test that today. The other thing to look at on this particular pattern would be ball choice. Ball choices for something like this, it depends on one of those two angles I was talking about. If you're gonna be playing more toward the 3-pin, tighter angles, you get the ball getting down lane and having it roll over. A lot of bowlers call it trapping the ball in the 1-3 pocket. You're gonna be probably wanting to use asymmetric pearls if you have enough hand to make them work, and probably quicker responding layouts. Because we only have technically 12 feet of hook, all that buff, maybe a little bit more than that, we're gonna need quicker responding balls to, one, get down lane a little bit, but two, you only have a little bit of room to hook. You're gonna need something that responds a little bit quicker on the back end to get it rolled over into that pocket. If you're playing a little bit farther right, I could see, again, more surface, smoother ball motion, doesn't get as far down lane. For a lot of the lower rev rate players, I could for sure see you point the ball a little bit more, still probably somewhere around second arrow and maybe like 10 over the tracer, but really you're not gonna be giving up the pocket too much. That's gonna be a common thing on this pattern. Avoid open angles early. Don't send it right super early. If you do send it right, make sure it gets down lane a little bit. What we're gonna be doing is I have a plethora of bowling balls I'm gonna throw. The first thing I do on any pattern is throw my benchmark ball. Now, if it's a short pattern, I know it's a short pattern, I'm probably gonna throw urethane as my benchmark, but for something like this, I'm gonna throw the GB5. Now, this does have about 1500 on surface, so I would expect it to probably be too smooth too early, but that's what it's gonna tell me. I know my benchmark ball and I can adjust accordingly. From there, I'm gonna, depending on what the lane gives me, I'm gonna try some different angles, try some different equipment, but there's a couple balls I really want to throw. One would be the Wicked Collision. When I did my ball review, it was definitely it got down lane and responded quite quickly. I feel like maybe for that tighter angle, that could be the ball for it. I also have the hitter, the effect, the chill, GB5, and then the max bias. A well-rounded set of bowling balls. I only have 2 sims out here right now. However, 6 balls, I should be able to find something. 6 balls. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna try to get starting lined up around second arrow like any other shot, acting like I don't know what this is, and then just read the ball motion from there. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start with a shot up second arrow. Tell me what it's gonna give me as far as maybe some recovery right or hold in, all that stuff. So try to throw one up 10 roughly. All right, that wasn't too bad. That was like 9-ish. But the first thing I noticed immediately, 48-foot pattern, that thing hooked at 35 feet. I mean, it was early. If you guys look at the pattern again, right the taper, which is on, right of the taper, which is on like 10 to 12, there's not a lot of volume, there's a lot of buff. Honestly, it's most of the lane is buff. If you play right, you're gonna see it play a lot shorter. Play in, it's gonna seem a lot longer. What we're gonna do off that shot, it did hook pretty early. I'm just gonna scooch left a little bit, try to find more of that ratio, more of that volume to hopefully get it down lane some. I don't know if it's gonna really get me too far down lane, but we'll see. Yeah. Okay, you can see from that shot, I did exactly what I wanted. However, it's just picking up the lane too early. We're gonna move left a little bit more, try to find more volume. But again, that just simply hooks too early for the length of the shot. And it doesn't keep the pocket in play. It just obviously wants to keep hooking past it. Let's move a little bit more left. We're gonna do 3 boards at a time. That was better, but it hooked twice. You can see it picked up friction at 30 to 35 feet, somewhere in there, and then it actually finished its transition. It saw the lane, started its transition, and then finished it, hooked twice. I don't like that. It's not great ball motion. We have played 3 different shots with this ball. I could move deeper, which I'm going to. Actually, I'm gonna do one more shot with this ball, move a little deeper. I wanna see if it continues to pick up early. It did go further down lane than the other 2, but still too early. Much better. Okay, so you guys could see on this particular pattern that provided much better ball motion. Like that is something I would actually try to play. 7 feet later, and I move 4 boards left. You can definitely see that this pattern is pretty extreme. If you're on the right side quite a bit, especially on these lanes, you're gonna see it play a lot shorter, a lot earlier, and it's gonna break down quicker because of just less volume and more buff. If you play a little bit more inside, you can actually play that more traditional long pattern, tighter close to the pocket shape. We know how that ball works. I was about 21, 20, and I was going through about 13, 14 roughly. So I'm gonna throw the exact same shot, but I'm actually gonna go up a ball. I'm gonna go to the max bias. It reads a little earlier, but it is a little bit more front to back. We're gonna see if we can make this shot work. This would be your ASIM solid for a higher rev rate player. Typically they hook early and are very smooth. That was missing. That looked good. Actually, that looked pretty good. I'm gonna throw that again. I missed in for sure. That was more trapping into the 1-3. I'm gonna get this one right a little bit, see if there's some recovery, but that looked pretty good. It was a little bit smoother than GB. It didn't continue through the pocket as much as the Game Breaker. It was just as early, I'd say, just as early. All right, I'm gonna try to send this one right a little bit to check recovery, because that looked pretty good. Yeah, it's wiggled out there. That's good. That's what I'm looking for. I feel like I'd almost go right with this ball a little bit. The first shot was great. The second shot was definitely like 5 boards right down lane. To 2-pin, I'll take. For a 5-board miss, I was trying to throw it there, but I'd say that's pretty good. We're gonna move a little bit farther right, and then I'm gonna try to show you guys that up the lane early roll, if that shape works better for you, or play in. We're gonna move quite a bit right. We're gonna be about as far right as when we started with the GB, roughly. A little bit farther left. Yeah, just hooks too early. It's just too far away from the pocket when it starts to transition, and it just doesn't hold it off. If I was throwing that ball, probably more of a trap bowling ball. Honestly, like triurethane. I know it's a 48-foot pattern, but it hooks really early in some places. Some places it doesn't. I am gonna move more right. I'm curious to see if this ball will hold the pocket, if it burns all of its energy. Try to get back a little bit more. Yeah, that thing just hook stop basically. If I was having fun, I'd play it. Probably wouldn't play it right now. So, all right, those two balls. More surface, my mid-laney, benchmarky, smooth bowling balls. What we're gonna go now to is the Wicked. This is gonna be the dead opposite. This should get us pretty far down lane and a very quick responding type of ball motion. All right, I'm gonna throw this shot the exact same place. Yeah, that gets way farther down lane. It was a little in, honestly, but just from general ball motion, I think it was like 10 more feet before its transition, which is great. I love that. We're gonna move left a little bit. This particular bowling ball is gonna be more set up to that trapping it in the pocket. Staying a little bit farther left, again, keep your angle shut down. But really, if you were to stand up here and draw a line back, the right side of the 3-pin, as far right as we want it, maybe like 10 at most. So we're gonna move left a little bit. We're just gonna try to touch that tracer on the right, touch on the left side. Or go right over it. All right, you guys can see that had a lot more recovery. It's a lot later, but it probably hooks just as much. It just does it a lot farther down lane. We're gonna move a little bit more left off that, see if we can make it into the pocket. Yeah, what I mean by trapping the ball is it's just a term that basically says you're just shoving it into the 1-3. Like, if you ever watch TOC, 50 foot, typically the guys will play on the tour either up the gutter. I think this is TOC, but up the gutter because it hooks for whatever bowling alley they're at. Or what they do is they just stand left and then they'll basically draw a line straight back from the pocket, and that ball's not coming off that line. The only ball motion you see is it rolling over into the pocket at the very last second. You're trapping it into that 1-3. Just a terminology, honestly, more than anything. What we're gonna do is move a little bit farther left, and we are trying to, I'll still test recovery, but I also wanna play more of that trap, you know, just keeping it in that 1-3. Move left a little bit. Again, we don't wanna be any farther right than that right tracer probably. So let's shut our angles down some. Nice. I think my break point was 9. That was close. But that shot right there is what I would want to play. I'm more comfortable doing that. Some people may be comfortable up the boards a little bit more. So that looked pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and throw another one. But with this particular bowling ball, it is a solid. However, factory, and this has a few games on it with 1500 compounds. That's gonna help it give it some length. Also with the layout I did, makes it super quick. Move the pin up, makes it a little quicker on ASIMs and Sims. And then I did a 5.5 on it, which makes it get even further down lane. Put a skid flippy layout on it. Yeah, and the mass bias is in. That looked pretty good. Let's try to repeat a shot. Yeah, but if you guys watched the Wicked Collision ball review, I could not keep that on the right side of the head pin, even though I was bowling on 42 foot with a high volume. Again, this place just hooks so much down lane, and then when you emphasize that with the ball that hooks a ton down lane, it hooks. So that ball motion makes a lot of sense for what the ball is and what the lane is. I'd probably play something like that. But if I need to transition on a pattern like this there's a lot of buff. One, it's already gonna play a little shorter. Expect after practice, you're gonna start seeing your ball check up a teensy bit earlier. And that's gonna be the common denominator with this particular pattern, is it's gonna play shorter than you expect just because all that buff. And then two, when it starts breaking down, you're not gonna see as much carry down because it's just buff. It's not oil all the way to 48 feet. You'll see a little bit less carry down than you expect maybe, but you'll see more mid-lane hook. Again, very 29 mils over 48 feet, not a ton of volume. However, obviously there's a lot of buff in that. The mids are gonna have a ton of oil, but when you go right where there's a ton of buff going down the lane, or just down lane itself, there's a lot of buff as well. So again, this will play a little shorter than you expect, but if you're playing the middle part of the lane, expect some carry down. Playing the right part of the lane, expect that mid lane to start hooking, for sure. And I'm already seeing it just with a few shots. If you're playing right, expect some more mid lane hook when it transitions. If you're playing in, maybe a little bit of carry down for sure, but what you're gonna see is the lane open up a little bit more, especially if you have guys right of you. Let's go ahead and throw a symmetric. We're gonna throw the chill. This particular bowling ball, I drilled to be smooth and late down lane. It's This might be a little too smooth, but we'll see. Pin down layout doesn't like as high of volumes, but this isn't ridiculous, so. If you guys watch the ball motion on that, rewind it if you want. It was good, it hit the pocket, but the way it went through the pins and the way it transition told me that it never saw enough friction to get the ball to turn over. When you're dealing with pin down layouts, a common denominator of the pin down layout is, now everyone's a little different, but higher valve numbers, stuff like that, is it needs more friction to get set up into its roll phase. We need more friction. Well, let's move right a little bit. See if we can keep it into that buff right a little, into it a little bit more. So we're gonna parallel right. Better, you can see it finished a lot better. If I wanna play a little bit straighter angle, this ball would make a lot of sense, which makes sense. I mean, ASIM versus SIM, that's gonna help me recover a little bit more, transition a little quicker. This is definitely gonna be a smoother type of shape. I'm gonna move right a little bit more. I wanted to face up just a tad more. 1, 2. Not bad, more recovery right. That's good. I enjoy that shape too. You can see on this pattern, you can play a couple different angles for sure. It's not the hardest pattern in the world. Decent amount of ratio, almost 3 to 1. But it's almost turning into a challenge pattern at that point. We're gonna go ahead and throw one more bowling ball, and that's gonna be the Effect. I feel like with the hitter, you're gonna get the same as the Max Bias, but I wanna throw an ASIM Pearl. Same spot as the Chill. If I had to guess, it might overhook slightly. Just kidding, it didn't hook at all. We're gonna move left a little bit, get it closer to the head pin. It's not crossing so many boards. I will say, Ace, my accuracy's been on point today. All right, we're gonna move a little bit left, get closer to the pocket. I know it looked like it didn't finish, but in my opinion, it burnt up a teensy bit. So we're gonna get it in the volume more, have more energy down lane, and also be closer to the pocket so it doesn't have to hook as much. Better. I will say with that ball, it's a little too smooth. It doesn't transition quite quick enough. The Wicked, a lot quicker. Ball reaction layout has to do a lot with that. Also the surface as well. This particular ball isn't finishing, not setting up and going through the pocket quite right. What we're gonna do on this one is I'm gonna slow it down to give it more time to face up. I'm not moving at all, just slowing down. Better, but just with a mile an hour, half mile an hour, you can see it really checked. If you want to go. It's probably not the ball for it right now. Not bad, but not the ball. Common thing about those is the surface. Also like Pearl, solid, but the surface is the big time, and they both get down lane enough. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the Wicked a few shots, and just let's see if I can repeat a few, and then we'll end it on that. I think I was here, we'll see. All right, just over that tracer, maybe a little left of that tracer. That was awful. Oh, it still struck. That gave me so much more room. You can see that's a long pattern right there. That's where it's like, I want that tug and I just want to play that 3. That was in and still struck. That was cool. Try to do that again without missing. See what happens if you get it right a little bit. Is there recovery? Okay, I play that. I mean, that was 7 boards different down lane. They both struck. Obviously, I think the first one got a little lucky, but all right, we're gonna try that again. I like that shape. That shape looks good to me. If you're a little bit lower rev rate, you'll probably be a little bit farther right, and you'll be directing it a little bit more. See if I can mimic that. I don't think I will be able to, but we'll see. I mimicked it, something like that. I had to throw it hard and take a lot of hand out of it, but you can still play right, technically. But the most important thing is we're not sending it right early. That's the most important thing. Our angles are in front of us. So we're gonna go ahead, try to throw a few more shots from deep. I'm gonna throw one shot from very deep, see what happens. All right, 1-3, don't get it right of the tracer. Great shot. That was good, I like that a lot. Maybe a little around it, not bad. We're gonna go ahead and move left, throw our last shot, just to see, just cause I enjoy wheeling the ball. I have now moved 5 right of where I just struck last. Everything's still the same though. We're not gonna get it right of that far right tracer, and we're gonna be drawing a line back, and I don't want my angles to be opened up early, and I wanna basically see that head of that 3 pin, maybe right side of that 3 pin, draw a line straight back, and that's what I'm looking for. Missed it. Not bad, not bad. Slow down. I like that. 48 foot, a lot of buff. Keep that in mind. If you're playing a little bit farther right, expect that breakdown to be more mid lane. If you're playing a little bit farther left, you might see a little bit more carry down out of practice, but the general breakdown is gonna be paralleling left, and maybe towards third or fourth game, you can probably start opening the lane up a little bit more. If you're a high rev rate player, I used a very high-end bowling ball for this, but the most important thing is it got down lane very well, and it was a little bit quicker to respond. If you're a little bit lower rev rate player, you can probably use a little bit smoother stuff, because you're gonna be a little bit farther right. Technically, the pattern itself is a little shorter. Technically, you just have more buff, right? And I mentioned pattern has a lot of buff, expected to play a little shorter than you think it will. So you're gonna be playing a little bit shorter of a pattern, so you can use maybe a little bit more surface, some a little bit smoother. For a pattern like this, the most important thing, if you wanna score, stay out of trouble more in particular, keep the head pin in play, no big angles, just get the ball going at the 1-3 pocket. If you're standing right, if you're going left, that's gonna be the most important thing, and that'll keep you 9. 9's a lot easier to pick up, then 3 off the right or 4 through the face, right? On this particular pattern, just try to 9 a lot, is basically what I'm saying. It's the easier pattern, the strikes will come, we just don't wanna get in trouble. The first week of Shark will be this Monday. Take a look at this video, guys. If you have any questions, I'll have my class at 6 p.m. before league to go over the pattern and answer any questions you may have. But for the most part, that was the PBA Shark pattern, the current one, the 2024. What I've seen, this is honestly, in my opinion, the easier of all of the patterns, but I also enjoy long patterns a little bit more. So again, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. As far as the video goes, if you guys liked the video, please remember to smash that like button. Helps the channel way more than you might think, and also hit that sub button. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. My name's Jason Robarge. We're Rev It Up Bowling. Much love, peace.